In the 10 years that followed, the wife who had always been so gentle went off the deep end, throwing the world's order into chaos. The system dispatched dozens of handlers to stabilize her, but every single one of them failed spectacularly. Left with no other choice, the system brought me back to life. Having forgotten everything, I was thrown in front of her, and a stream of live comments materialized in my vision. Is the system insane? The previous handlers either looked like her dead husband or had the same personality. At the very least, they were sharp, charismatic, handsome guys. Even with all that, they couldn't raise her approval rating by even 1%. This new guy is completely unremarkable, aside from being male like her husband. He'll probably be dead within a day. The system told me my name was Mike Anderson, and I was 23. My mission was to redeem the ruthless female lead who was 10 years my senior, Mia Vance. Don't make the same mistakes as the handlers before you, it warned. You will die. It then showed me the case files for every previous attempt. Without exception, none of them had ended well. When the screen went dark, I saw my own plain face reflected in it. I was nothing like those other guys. Could I really do this? The system was silent for so long I was about to ask again when it finally spoke. You'll manage. It paused, then added, only you can. I didn't understand what it meant. I followed the system's directions to the restaurant where Mia was, but before I could even get close, her bodyguards intercepted me with a warning. Mia was sitting by the window in a red coat, waiting for her daughter to join her for a meal. Her eyes were downcast. She didn't spare me so much as a sideways glance. Yet, as I stared at her cold, elegant features, I felt an unconscious urge to shout her name, a wave of sorrow and joy washing over me. I froze, and before I could process what was happening, one of her bodyguards sent me flying with a hard kick. He loomed over me and jabbed a finger at my forehead, his voice vicious. Don't even think about people who are out of your league. This is just a warning. Next time, we won't be so gentle. The sky abruptly shifted from sunny to overcast, and a heavy rain began to pour down. I wiped a trickle of blood from my lip and slowly pushed myself to my feet. Across the street, a luxury sedan pulled up to the restaurant, and Mia's daughter hopped out excitedly. Mia stood to greet her daughter, though her expression remained devoid of any smile. Maybe my stare was too intense, because as the girl took her mother's hand to go inside, she suddenly glanced in my direction. I was startled, but managed to straighten up and offer her a faint, gentle smile. Unlike her mother, the girl acknowledged me with a polite look, but it was only for a second before a bodyguard stepped in to block her view. As their figures vanished inside, my heart seemed to collapse in on itself, leaving me with a profound emptiness and a restless anxiety. Before I could make sense of anything, black text began to fade into my vision, then disappear. Is the system out of its mind? What makes this guy qualified to be a handler? The system must be terrified of Mia actually destroying the world. It's pulling out all the stops to keep her stable. Too bad Mia only lost it because her husband died. She was crazy in love with him. They've sent hundreds of handlers already, some who looked identical, some with the same personality, even some who had all his memories. And if all else failed, they were at least intelligent, charismatic, and gorgeous. I stared blankly at the words as they appeared and vanished, trying to commit every key detail to memory. So, this Mia they were talking about was really that dangerous. With so many failed handlers, it was no wonder the system insisted I be cautious and focus on just being seen for now. It seemed the system was truly out of options. Otherwise, it never would have chosen someone as unremarkable and talentless as me. How on earth was I supposed to be the one to save Mia? As I thought this, the live comments started up about me again. But hey, the world hasn't ended yet, so that's not on the system, is it? Right. Her husband only left her with their child. If she hadn't been pregnant, she would have taken the whole world with her to the grave years ago. After all, her husband was her first love. He was the only one who ever thought Mia was gentle and kind. So after he died, she dropped the act completely. Anyone who's tried to approach her by pretending to be him has met a nasty end, no exceptions. So what's the plan for this guy? He's nothing like the husband, just a plain-looking dude. How's he supposed to get through to Mia? I really thought he'd be dead by the end of day one, but he actually made it. Well, I'll bet he joins the others by the end of day two. I'm in on that bet. It's freezing and raining. It would be hilarious if he collapsed from his injuries before he even gets a formal introduction to me. How would he last then? A stream of ha 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 flooded the feed. I kept my head down and forced myself to walk away. I never expected my next interaction with the Vance family would be initiated by her daughter. She stopped me right as I was leaving the walk-in clinic. She tilted her head up, her eyes locked on mine. Do you know me? Why would you ask that? I answered honestly, I don't know you. For a second, The little girl's smile froze, and a look of confusion clouded her eyes. The previously sparse live comments suddenly flooded my vision. Ugh, my standards are too high for this. Where did the system find this genius? He doesn't even know the basics. Even if you don't know, you can at least fake it. Unlike the commenters, the girl spoke urgently. She pointed to herself, then pressed a small blue compact mirror into my hand. Look at our eyes. The comments popped up again. So the system's angle is, "Hey Mia, I found a guy with the same eyes as your dead husband. Is that it? Get real. Nothing matches except the eyes. And honestly, there's nothing that's special about his eyes." I finally took a closer look. So, Mia's husband had this trait? When she saw I had no reaction, her mouth turned down at the corners, her expression becoming a perfect mirror of her mother's, laced with disappointment. A woman in a business suit hurried over. "Miss Vance, what are you doing here? We need to get back. Your mother will be upset if she can't find you." The girl, Zoe, lowered her head and let the woman lead her away. After a few steps, she paused and said in a cool tone, "Arrange for that man to have a temporary place to stay. He smells terrible, like he hasn't showered in 3 days." My face flushed, completely called out. It was true. The system hadn't given me any resources. I'd survived this long on the few dollars I had in my pocket, just enough for a couple of days of food. The girl was gone, leaving me to drag my injured leg down the street. The system explained that I had died in a kidnapping 10 years ago. According to the original script, a new male lead was supposed to appear in Mia's life after my death. But Mia was fundamentally broken. The moment I died, she went dark. She killed every handler they sent and began systematically taking control of the world's wealth and power. If this world collapses, the system will be destroyed along with it. It has spent years expending its own energy just to keep things from falling apart. As a result, when it resurrected me, it could only manage a crude reconstruction, leaving me with my original eyes and the scars from my death, but nothing else. No wonder the comments were mocking me. Even I couldn't see any hope of success. But this was my only chance at life, so first, I had to figure out how to survive. I swallowed my pride and managed to get a job as a security guard at the gate of Mia's apartment complex. Being the new guy, I got stuck with the night shift, where I'd sometimes see her daughter. She was no longer polite like she was that first day. Now, she just gave me a cold stare whenever she saw me. It was another pre-dawn morning. I was sitting in the security booth, sipping some hot water I'd managed to get to warm myself. A few minutes later, Mia's white BMW swept past. I only knew it was her because the long-dormant live comments suddenly flared to life. Finally, it's been 10 days, but I finally get to see Mia again. What is this guy doing? He just shows up for his shift and does nothing? Why isn't the system pushing him? My heart hammered in my chest. By the time I looked up again, Mia's car was gone. A month later, I was finally making enough to not have to sleep in the security booth. Management got a noise complaint and sent me up to deal with it. I glanced at the apartment number on the slip and my stomach tightened. It was Mia's penthouse. As the elevator climbed, I saw my own tense face in the polished steel doors. The moment I stepped onto her floor, I heard a faint, ragged breathing. I rushed to Mia's front door and started pressing the doorbell insistently. The live comments were firing off questions. Whoa, what's he doing? Is he about to break in? If he has this much energy, he should be downstairs ambushing Mia. She's on her way home. I hesitated for a second, staring at the door. The only answer was the sound of that desperate breathing getting worse. I was certain Mia was inside. After a moment's thought, I tried a random passcode on the keypad. The door clicked open. The live feed went wild. They were stunned that I had guessed the code on the first try, but they were even more shocked by the scene inside. In the dimly lit room, Mia was curled into a ball on the sofa, wearing a long dress. She was hugging herself tightly, her eyes wide with panic and helplessness. When the door opened, she turned her head with a tremor. She looked completely drained, but after the initial shock, her gaze sharpened with suspicion. I flipped on all the lights and then pulled open the curtains, letting the daylight flood in. I watched her breathing even out slightly before asking, "Where are your pills?" Mia just stared at me, silent. I couldn't wait for an answer. I searched the room until I found them and gave them to her. She took the pills from my hand. Her face was still deathly pale, but her breathing was steadier. My own heart was still pounding in my chest. I stood up, wanting nothing more than to flee from her intense gaze. But she grabbed my wrist, her eyes locking onto mine. "How did you know all that?" The cold from her skin shot up my arm. Before I could pull away, she tugged me closer. "It's you, isn't it?" An almost imperceptible flicker of light crossed her eyes. I looked away, unable to meet her gaze. Was she mistaking me for her dead husband? When I didn't answer, her grip loosened slightly. I seized the chance and scrambled out of there. Mia remained on the sofa, looking fragile and utterly alone. The second I shut the door, The live comments exploded. He finally gets a lucky break, and he just runs away? Unbelievable. This is the first time I've ever seen Mia look so vulnerable. If that were me, I would have taken advantage of the situation and shamelessly moved in to take care of her. How often do you get to see the Ice Queen this defenseless? Miss this chance, and you'll never get another. I knew what they wanted. They were hoping I'd screw up and get myself killed like all the others so they could move on to the next handler. But something told me that was the wrong move. For the next several days, Mia didn't come after me like the comments predicted, nor did she have me beaten to make me forget what I'd seen. The only change was that she started coming home more often. She was still the same aloof, imperious Mia Vance, making the other day feel like nothing more than a strange dream. Sometimes I'd overhear the other guards gossiping about her. They said her routine hadn't changed in 10 years, that the only variations in her life revolved around her daughter. They said she was impossible to approach, that you couldn't get within 5 feet of her without her bodyguard stepping in. They said a woman with her fortune should be living in a mansion, and the only reason she stayed in this apartment was because of her late husband. They said she lived such a lonely life that she was still being faithful to his memory. I always just listened quietly. I found myself thinking that a mission this impossible was worse than not being alive at all, since this wasn't much of a life. Even a live feed got bored, devolving into simple personal insults and daily check-in posts to mock me. This went on for weeks. Because I was agreeable, I kept getting saddled with more and more odd jobs. I started to wonder if there was a time limit on this mission. How much longer did I have to keep this up? I was aimlessly walking a resident's cat around the complex, my mind elsewhere. I wasn't watching where I was going and slammed right into a man in a hurry, sending a stack of papers flying everywhere. He stumbled and kicked the cat, which hissed and bolted. I quickly soothed the frightened cat before crouching to help the man gather his papers, apologizing profusely. His brow was furrowed in anger, but when he saw a small scratch on his ankle, he kicked me hard. "What's your badge number? What kind of idiot are you?" I tried to explain, but he just sneered. "Never heard of you. You must be new. Didn't your boss teach you any respect?" A small crowd of onlookers was starting to form. I handed him a stack of papers, keeping my head down. "I'm very sorry, sir. Please check if any are damaged. I can reprint them for you." "Reprint them? Do you have any idea how valuable my time is? You've wasted it. Can you pay for that?" What am I supposed to do when Ms. Vance holds me accountable for this? He was furious, kicking me again for good measure. I just stood there, too stunned to move. "Then what would you like me to do?" "I'll cooperate." He took a deep, theatrical breath, playing to the crowd. Just then, I heard a car pull up and stop nearby. A car door opened and closed, and footsteps approached until a slender figure stopped right beside me. The man's aggressive tone vanished instantly. "Ms. Vance, perfect timing. How many times did you kick him?" The man didn't understand the question, but answered truthfully. "Only twice. I went easy on him. Scum like this deserves it." Mia gave a cold snort and gestured with her hand. 3 enormous bodyguards materialized. "Get back to him." Mia's voice was quiet and devoid of emotion, but it carried an immense weight. The feed was no longer filled with insults, but a flood of question marks. "Did I miss a chapter? I haven't checked in for a few days. What's going on?" "Mia, I thought you didn't give a damn about this guy." I watched in a daze as Mia's bodyguards beat the man until his face was bruised and swollen. He had no idea what he'd done wrong, wailing, "Ms. Vance, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Sir, I'm so sorry. I was blind. Please let me go." Mia turned to meet my gaze, her dark eyes unreadable. Should they let him go? Seeing the man's pathetic state, any resentment I felt vanished. "That's enough," I said carefully, choosing my words. Mia nodded and gave a slight wave, and the bodyguards immediately stopped. "Our companies will no longer be doing business together." The man struggled to his feet, his face pale with shock. He didn't dare say a word, just dragged himself away in disgrace. This was the first time I'd seen Mia's ruthless side. None of the onlookers dared to intervene. In fact, the crowd of gossips had scattered the moment she appeared. Everyone knew how terrifying Mia Vance could be. I murmured a quiet, "Thank you," and turned to leave as well. But she caught my wrist. The cold of her hand was a shock, and when I looked up, I was met with her smiling eyes. Her voice softened. "Is that the only thanks I get?" At her words, the live feed went crazy. "Mia, snap out of it. He looks nothing like your husband. Don't tell me this is love at first sight. I hate watching pairings with a plain guy and a gorgeous woman. Can someone fill me in on what he did? All he did was walk a cat. How did that raise his approval rating?" I was just as confused as they were. I couldn't understand this sudden shift in Mia's behavior. Maybe it was because she hadn't smiled in so long that the slight curve of her lips was almost invisible. In her tone, it almost sounded like she was flirting. A shiver went through me, but it didn't feel wrong. On some subconscious level, It felt like she was just a girl who knew how to be playful. She didn't seem to expect an answer. Instead, she scooped up the cat that was now rubbing against her leg and led me over to a nearby bench. I flinched as she knelt, but she just gently rolled up my pant leg and took a bottle of liniment from another guard. I looked down at her, able to see only the sharp line of her jaw. She looked surprisingly gentle as she began to rub the ointment into the bruise, her palm warming the skin. I snapped out of my daze and pulled my leg back. I watched the cat, the one I had been walking, trot into her apartment lobby and curl up in a familiar bed. "Is that your cat?" I asked. Mia nodded. I frowned without thinking, and she gently smoothed the lines on my forehead with her thumb. Mia let out a soft laugh. "What's on your mind? You didn't think I'd hurt the cat, did you?" I shook my head quickly. "No, but it was a lie. That was exactly what I had thought." "He's 11 years old," Mia said. "He's been with me for 11 years. He's as important to me as family. I'm not some monster who goes around hurting things. Why would you think that of me?" Towards the end, her voice held a note of genuine hurt. The live feed was nothing but question marks. "What is happening today?" I've actually seen Mia smile twice. I've been following this for years, and this is only the second time I've ever seen her smile. Does anyone remember what happened to the last person who got on her bad side? Hold on. Is no one going to mention that Mia is personally taking a stranger in her home? The first time could be explained away as an accident. But what's this? You're kidding. Has Mia actually fallen for this security guard? What is so special about him? You've been listening to the rumors, haven't you? Mia looked at me, the faint smile never leaving her lips. "It's all lies. Don't believe any of it." I hadn't spoken to many people, but in that instant, all their warnings echoed in my head. I shook my head again and again. Mia's voice grew even softer. "He insulted you, so I paid him back in kind. That man only lost my company's contract. He won't lose his job, and he certainly won't lose his life." It was like Mia knew everything. Still, I couldn't forget being kicked across the pavement by her bodyguard just for looking at her. Her words now seemed more plausible, but I just nodded to acknowledge them. After she finished with the ointment, she took me to a private clinic. The entire building was empty except for a team of doctors and nurses standing by the entrance, clearly waiting for us. She pointed at me. "Give him a full examination." I noticed then that her security detail had changed. The man who kicked me was gone. When the examination was over, I saw the doctor's grim expression. I pressed my lips together, a knot of fear in my stomach. I didn't even remember how I died 10 years ago. "Can these scars be fixed?" Mia asked. The doctor nodded, looking me over. "Most of the surface ones, yes. But the old trauma to his leg will require a more complex surgical plan. As for his face, it appears to be the result of reconstructive surgery after a major injury. It's miraculous that only the eyes match the original." I instinctively touched my face. I didn't look like this before. Mia seemed to already know this, nodding calmly. As they went into a private office to discuss a treatment plan, I was left to wait outside. When they finished, Mia handed me a cane. "Use this until your leg is fully healed." I resisted. I was still young, and my leg wasn't completely useless. "Please." Mia's voice was soft, almost a plea. "Just listen to me, okay?" I took it without thinking, as if some part of me was incapable of refusing her. Seeing that I had accepted, she looked pleased and said she was taking me home. I stared at her in disbelief. "Home?" Mia nodded. "From now on, I'll take care of you. You won't have to live like you did before." I understood Mia less and less. The way this was progressing, you'd think she was the one trying to win me over. "Why?" Mia smiled faintly. "Because I love you. I know why you're here, and I know why you were brought back." My heart stopped for a beat. She really did know everything. Just like the system said, she controlled the order of this world. It ran according to her will. Then what about the others before me? What makes me different? Mia led me into her car, and the city began to slide past the window. Because they were just handlers. "You're different. You're the one I was trying to get back. My real husband." Her words hit my brain like a physical blow. The live feed exploded again. Oh my God, what did I just hear? What does she mean? Is Mia saying this guy is her dead husband? How did she even recognize him? This is insane. No wonder the system chose him. This was the plan all along. Where are all the people who were calling him useless? Speak up. Okay, my bad. I apologize first. No wonder Mia was all over him. Her actual first love showed up. The real deal is always better. Even with a new face and no memory, he's 1,000 times better than any of those imposters. Wow, look at everyone in the feed suddenly praising it. A change in status really makes a difference. Yeah, maybe we should all apologize. The moment she called me her husband, my vision bleached white. A cascade of images, scenes, and feelings flashed through my mind. I reached out as if to catch them, but my hand closed on empty air. I understood only one thing with sudden, shocking clarity. I really was Mia's dead husband. After a long moment, I turned to her. But I don't remember. It doesn't matter, Mia said, her smile gentle. As long as you're back with me, nothing else matters. The car parked in the underground garage, and she held my hand as we rode the elevator up. In the reflection in the doors, I thought I saw a glimpse of that sweet, gentle Mia from the flashes of memory. I'm never letting you go again. The moment we were inside the apartment, Mia stopped holding back and threw her arms around me. I stumbled with her into the living room as she flicked on the lights, still holding me tight as she surveyed the warm, inviting space. If I felt a vague sense of familiarity last time, this time I knew for sure. I had decorated this apartment myself, filled with my hopes for Mia's happiness. In the center of the living room was a large wedding photograph. I recognized this instantly. It was Mia and me 10 years ago. I was a handsome guy. A wave of insecurity washed over me. Mia followed my gaze to the photo and sighed softly. It's been 10 years. It took me 10 years to be able to see you again. The click of a door opening sounded from down the hall, and someone stepped out. It was Mia's daughter. My daughter. She stared at us, her expression shocked. I cleared my throat and gently helped Mia sit up, putting some space between us. She immediately leaned back against me. She's 9 years old, Mike, not an idiot. She understands. Still, I couldn't bring myself to be affectionate in front of our child, but I couldn't push Mia away either. The girl, Zoe, walked over to us and spoke. My name is Zoe. I'm 9. Mom told me that by the time she found out she was pregnant, you were already gone. She said you died saving her during the kidnapping. Her words were the key. The sealed memories unlocked and came rushing back. I remembered everything. Our business was just taking off, and a rival who couldn't beat us fair and square decided to resort to kidnapping. I got a tip beforehand and decided to walk into their trap to get Mia, the real target, to safety. I let them take me instead, but they realized I'd arranged for a rescue, and in their rage, they took me out on a boat. They set off an explosion that consumed us all. My leg was shattered by a bullet as I tried to get away just before the blast. When the fireball erupted, there was nowhere to run. As Zoe spoke, she suddenly burst into tears. I missed you so much. The bond of family is a strange and powerful thing. We had never met, but when she ran into my arms, all I felt was an overwhelming urge to cry and a crushing guilt for all the years I had missed. If I had known Mia was pregnant with her, I never would have taken that risk. I'm so sorry, I whispered, holding her tight. Zoe was a sweet kid. She just nestled against me and mumbled, "Daddy." "I'm here," I choked out. "Daddy's here." Zoe's shoulders shook as she sobbed. Mia sat beside us, just watching quietly. When our tears finally subsided, she spoke softly. "Okay, Zoe, let's let your dad rest for a little while." Exhaustion washed over me, and when I woke again, it was evening. I opened the bedroom door to see Mia and Zoe standing at the dining table, finishing setting the plates. "Daddy!" Zoe ran over and hugged my leg. "Mom cooked for the first time ever today. She just finished and was about to come get you." I smiled and lifted Zoe into my arms, then looked at Mia. "Thank you." Even though I knew they were my wife and daughter, I couldn't quite relax into this new reality yet. Thankfully, Mia seemed to understand and didn't press. Halfway through the meal, I finally asked a question. "How did you know it was me?" Mia put down her fork. "When I first saw you, I wasn't sure. You look nothing like you did in the photos, but my heart was racing. The only other time it's done that in the last 10 years was when I got the call about your death. But the system has sent hundreds of handlers to get to me, and I couldn't be sure you weren't just another one of them instead of the real you." She took a deep breath and met my eyes. "So that day you came into my apartment, I was in disbelief. The passcode to the door is my birthday followed by yours. Istère hier, incrédulus. That's why I wasn't on guard. Do you have any idea how familiar all your actions were that day? I only developed these panic attacks after you were gone, yet you knew exactly what to do, as if you'd never left. For a moment, I felt like that naive girl I used to be when I was with you. But I was terrified you were an imposter, that I would fall for it, and then you'd disappear again. I couldn't let myself believe it was really you until I was absolutely sure. You see, our cat, he's very temperamental. Back then, you were the only person he'd let near him. It took him years to warm up to us after you were gone. So I tested it. When I saw him go right up to you, I knew. I knew it was you. We both knew. We missed you so much, Mike. Welcome home." I still didn't have my memories back, but tears blur my vision anyway. The cat, sensing my emotion, came and rubbed against my leg. So even when my mind forgot, my heart and my body remembered for me. Everything around me was saying the same thing. Welcome home. That night, I lay awake for hours, listening as Mia told me everything that had happened in the last 10 years, about how she raised Zoe on her own. She pulled out her tablet and showed me 9 years worth of photos and videos. I never knew if you would come back, but I knew you'd regret missing it. So I recorded everything. Every birthday, every Christmas, I always gave her 2 presents, one from me and one from you. I told her that her daddy loved her very much, and that one day he would come back. Zoe was always such a good girl about it. She never once complained about not having a dad. I took the tablet and scrolled through the videos. Zoe as a baby staring into the lens, as a toddler smiling for the camera, from learning to roll over to taking her first steps, to running and shouting mommy. In every photo they took together, they always left an empty space beside them, a space for me, as if I had never been gone. The tears started again. I closed the tablet and asked her, "How were you so sure I would come back? Did you make some kind of deal with the system?" The arm Mia had around me went rigid. Logically, this world should have collapsed years ago. As the stories lead, Mia had completely gone off script. If she knew about the system, she must have done something to force a stalemate. Mia leaned her head on my shoulder and smiled. Yes, we have a balance of power. Or rather, I force one. It needs this world to function until its protagonist lives out her natural life. But I killed the intended male lead, which left only me to keep the world's order intact. To stop me from becoming all-powerful, the system sent all those handlers, men who were similar to you, to try and win me over. If any of them had succeeded, it would have diluted my power. But I didn't want any of them. I only wanted you. But your return doesn't help it gain anything. It only stabilizes me. So of course it wasn't happy. I knew the system had the power to bring you back. I figured if I became powerful enough, it would have no choice but to use you to control me. So for 10 years, it could only watch as I took over more and more of the world's wealth and influence, until finally, it had no choice but to send you back to me. 10 years. I finally did it. Mia's hand rested on my injured leg, her voice turning cold. But it didn't bring you back whole. It brought you back scarred. I could feel the danger radiating from her, but I wasn't afraid. I just smiled. I'm still grateful. It gave me a second chance. Otherwise, you would have been alone for the rest of your life. Mia scolded. If it tried, I would have taken it down with me. Then, as if remembering something, she held me tighter. As long as you're safe, nothing else matters. We talked for so long that I started to get drowsy. Mia was a restless sleeper, and in my half-conscious state, I felt her burrowing closer and closer into my arms. I instinctively pulled her tight and murmured, "It's okay, don't be afraid." She stilled, and I finally fell completely asleep. My memories returned to my dreams. I remember the day I met Mia. She was a little girl, fighting with stray dogs over a piece of trash. The moment our eyes met, my family's housekeeper took a pastry from her pocket and gave it to her, muttering a prayer under her breath before tugging on my arm. "Come on, Master Michael, let's go." Mia was covered in dirt, and she snatched the pastry and shoved it in her mouth. The only clean things about her were her eyes, which were startlingly bright. I held out my hand to her, thinking that if she took it, I would take her home. Without a second of hesitation, she grabbed my hand. She didn't say a word, just stared at me. The housekeeper was frightened by her intensity and tried to pull us apart, but I wouldn't let her. I brought Mia home, and after she was washed up, I saw that she wasn't a grimy little thing, but a beautiful child with pale skin and rosy cheeks. I told my parents I wanted her to stay. I didn't have a real reason. I just thought she was quiet and pretty. She was perfectly healthy and intelligent. A child like her should have been adopted from foster care in a heartbeat. But then one day, our housekeeper tripped and hit her head, and I saw Mia hiding in a corner, smiling a small, satisfied smile. A chill ran down my spine. That's when I learned the truth. She had antisocial personality disorder. Similar accidents had happened with her biological parents and a series of foster families. Whenever someone displeased her, she found a clever way to make them pay. But I kept her secret. I wanted to teach her, to show her how to live within the rules of society, how to be a normal person. And maybe because I was the one who had saved her, she listened to me. We went through school together, all the way to high school graduation. Then my world fell apart. My parents were framed by a business rival. My father was killed in a staged car accident, and my mother was sent to prison. I had nothing left and no power to fight back. The Mia of that time was completely different from the little girl I'd found. She had learned to be gentle and kind. She chose to stay with me, to help me rebuild from nothing. We lived in a basement apartment, ate whatever we could afford, and faced every hardship together. I didn't go to college. I worked odd jobs to pay for her tuition. I wanted her to have the future I couldn't, to go as far as she possibly could. I had taken responsibility for her life all those years ago, and I was determined to see it through. By the time she graduated from college, my own company was starting to take off, which is when I became a target for the system. We got married, and then I died out on the ocean I loved so much. Without me there to guide her, Mia dropped the act. She took over my company and killed the new male lead the first time he appeared. The system was powerless. It couldn't risk the story's protagonist being imprisoned or killed. Mia became more and more powerful, completely out of control. She knew she was the protagonist in a tragic story. She knew I was always meant to die. And so, everything she had done for the past 10 years was for one purpose: to break the story and bring me back. With that final piece of the puzzle, I woke from the dream. It was 8 in the morning. Mia was still sleeping peacefully in my arms. I was overcome with an emotion I couldn't name. All I could do was lean down and gently kiss her forehead. "Mia," I whispered, "I remember everything. I'm really back." As if she heard me in her sleep, her eyes slowly fluttered open. Her body trembled as she wrapped her arms around me, holding me tight. "Mike," she whispered, repeating my name over and over. And each time, I answered, "Yes, it's me. It's really me." After 10 years, I'm finally back. With my mission complete, the system finally breathed a sigh of relief. It granted us our happy ending, a lifetime of it. The live feed, which had followed my entire journey, filled my vision one last time. Congratulations. Seriously, congratulations. I'm actually crying. Wow, I thought this was a pacification mission, but it was a homecoming story all along. I don't want this to end, but it's time to say goodbye. Mike and Mia, you have to be happy forever. Slowly, the words faded away. I knew this was the true ending. From now on, it was just my life with Mia. We stayed in bed for a while longer before finally getting up to start our day. It was the weekend, so Zoe was still sleeping in. I looked around the apartment, and after a long moment, I spoke. "Mia, let's move. This place holds a lot of memories. But if we're really starting over, I think we need a completely fresh start." Mia agreed. We moved into a beautiful house in the suburbs, and even Zoe loved it. For the first week, though, she was still adjusting. She came to our door, looking at us with wide eyes. "Mom, Dad, can I sleep with you? I'm a little scared." Mia put her hands on her hips and gave her a stern look. "No." But this was my first week of being a real father to my daughter. I couldn't say no to her. "Come on, Mia," I said. "Just for tonight, okay?" That night, she lay between us, smiling contentedly in the dark. "I've only ever seen this in movies," she whispered. "Kids sleeping between their mom and dad. I know I'm a little old for it, but I finally get to do it. I'm so happy." I nodded, looking at my wife and daughter sleeping beside me. I was happy too.